All right, here we are talking a little bit about shoulder health. Now, obviously having the required range of movement and working on mobility is a big part of keeping the shoulders healthy, but also understanding that the lifts and the training that are going to get us the best results also come with a requirement to do a little bit of homework, a little bit of prehab so that we don't end up injured or with overuse injuries. There's a few things we can do to avoid overuse injuries. So one of them is rotating our exercises regularly, so slight little changes to the different presses we do. And that can be from the joint angle or even just to the implement. So going from a normal bar to a fat bar, or from a normal bar to dumbbells, and changing those things up. Now, when it comes to the prehab work, there's a few things we need to understand. So we need to make sure we have good scapular control. We need to make sure we have good strength in the rotator cuff, because these muscles are going to be responsible for generating force or moving the limb, but also resisting movement. So there's three key areas that I'm looking to develop when I'm prehabbing the shoulder. So the first thing we want to do is we want to train the middle and lower trapezius. And the reason for that is it's going to set the scapula and help the scapula be nice and stable. Now, whenever we have rotator cuff instability, it's going to be coupled with instability of the scapula or the shoulder blade. So my go-to exercise for that one is the trap 3 raise. So we're getting the body or the torso on about a 45-degree angle. We're retracting the scapula, and then we're raising the arm in a nice straight position at 45 degrees. We're repeating that action, and we want to get to a point where we can do 10 reps with approximately 10% of your bench press 1RM. So I've got a 5 kilo weight here just for demonstration purposes, but if you could bench press 100 kilos, you need to be able to do 10 reps of that with a 10 kilo weight. So that's the first thing we want to be able to do. Now, a couple of things on that. With that retraction and that ultimate aim of being here, if you're tight through the pecs and tight through the lats, you're not going to get the elevation and the shoulder flexion that you're looking for. So you need to make sure first you're doing that flexibility and soft tissue work. All right, once we've done a little bit of strengthening on the trap, we then want to integrate that with strengthening of the rotator cuff. So we're going to do simple external rotation here. So we can start the most basic. Intermediate is the hand starting over the belly button, and advanced we go further out so the hand starts over the same side hip. So I'm going to go with the basic version here, and all we're focusing on is axis of rotation, starting and finishing opposite hip. If I go to intermediate, it's just a little bit wider, and then if I go to advanced, I'm out further. Now, the function of that exercise is simply to put loading through the rotator cuff. Yes, it's going to make the muscle stronger. Now, that will be effective to a certain degree, but then to get the full benefit of this kind of work and have that transfer into your lifting, we also need to tie it in with activities that are more neurologically demanding. Best activity for that is our kettlebell bottoms up clean. So I'm going to talk you through this movement. First things first, we're starting with the forearm vertical. And the aim of the game here, so as I face you, you'll notice my elbow wants to go out. So that elbow going out there is letting my rotator cuff off the hook. By driving the elbow in, I'm having to contract the rotator cuff in an isometric contraction. From there, I'm looking to push that kettlebell straight up above my head, bicep to ear, and avoid that elbow wanting to go out. So it's going to want to drive that way, and I'm having to engage my rotator cuff to resist that. Now, this movement is going to tie in that rotator cuff strength that we've been developing into the nervous system so that we can then better express that when we're doing more complex movements like pressing overhead, bench pressing, or any of these sorts of things. The whole aim of the game for our rotator cuff is to resist movement. That's essentially what stability is. It's the ability to resist force and provide stability so that the muscles on the opposite side of the joint have that strength and that stability to then express their force from. If there is a weakness in the stabilizers, the nervous system will down-regulate how much force you can actually press on the way out. Now, this information, this is going to apply well to advanced lifters, intermediate lifters, or beginner lifters. It doesn't matter where you're at, these stability basics are like the foundations on a house. Without the foundations, you could build a pretty house, but eventually it is going to break down.